So a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, I sent a few files about the word Kafkaesque. Kafkaesque. We didn't go over it last week, but you can find all of the files here in the chat there. So if you don't have a printout or if you don't have anything with you, you can access the files there, and then also I will pull them up on our screen here, okay? So no need to worry about it if you don't have a printout. But we're gonna talk a little bit more about stories because last week we ended the lesson by making a wonderful story of our own. And if you want to make your own story, I'll send you a website. It's a website here. This website we used. We put in a bunch of words into the blanks and then hit story generator. And then it generated a wonderful story about Pippi Goldberg and Bilbo Baggins.
Oh yeah, sorry, we didn't finish reading.
Yeah,
well, we didn't even start.
We didn't even start. We need to finish reading it. So I'll pull that up and we'll read that story. And then the reason why I want to talk about Kafka and Kafkaesque is because a couple of weeks ago we talked about the shapes of stories, and last week we did the shapes of our own stories. And there was one author that oh, I always forget his name, Junior. What's the author that we just read? Harrison Bergeron and all of that.
I won't remember.
I always know that he's a junior, but every time I say Kafka, I want to blend his name in with his. And then I start thinking of Harrison Bergeron. Is it Harrison Bergeron Jr.? No. I'll
blah blah Jr.
Yeah, blah blah Jr. One second. That's not it. Here. Kurt Vonnegut Jr. Kurt Vonnegut Jr. Okay, sorry. I as an English teacher, I'm sure all other English teachers in the world just rolled their eyes and almost fainted because I forgot a very good author's name, Kurt Vonnegut Jr. So he was showing us the shapes of all these stories, and there was one story, if you remember on the axes, there was one story that started on the bottom and went down. And he was talking about this man who turned into a cockroach. He was talking about Franz Kafka. Kafka's literature is usually very pessimistic and very, it doesn't have a very bright look on the world. So we won't read any of his stories because they are quite long, but we will talk about what it means to be Kafkaesque, because his feeling about the world was so unique and interesting and complex of an idea that they gave this idea a name. They named it Kafkaesque, so they named it after him. So we will learn a bit about this work. All right, but before we do that, we must read the masterpiece. So let's read the masterpiece by Polera Bogstam. I don't know if you know this author. It's a little bit of a conglomeration of a lot of names here. Lera helped us, Polina helped us, Bogdan helped us, and Stan helped us pick out words for our story. So we decided this will be the name of the story. And I did not name this story. The generator named this story. So the name of the story is The Huge Pencil. Do you still have it, Stan? Okay, yeah. There we go. So everybody check out Stan and visualize that device, because this will be a main plot point.
Just compared to the size of my head, just 3 times as big as mine.
Yeah, it's very important for the end of the story. Okay? So Pippi Goldberg looked at the huge pencil in her hands and felt bored. She walked over to the window and reflected on her violent surroundings. She had always loved fantastic Belgorod with its perfect, powerless people. It was a place that encouraged her tendency to feel bored. Sounds about right, right?
Well, uh,
Is
that's
that how you guys feel when you look out your window over Belgorod?
probably not only Belgorod,
All right.
the whole Russia.
So then she saw something in the distance, or rather someone. It was the figure of Bilbo Baggins. Bilbo was a kind-hearted angel with a pink right toe and a scrawny nose. Scrawny means very skinny, so his nose was very skinny and scrawny. Pippi gulped. She glanced at her own reflection. She was a stingy, greedy wine drinker with a small right toe and a ridiculous nose. Her friends saw her as a big, boiling brute. Once she had even made a cup of tea for a round toddler. I don't know what this means. Doesn't really mean anything. Okay. But not even a stingy person who had once made a cup of tea for a round toddler was prepared for what Bilbo had in store that day, or today. The fog rolled in like dancing pandas, making Pippi miserable. Is it foggy in Belgorod often?
Not at all.
No. Not really, yeah. Okay. So this is a special day. As Pippi stepped outside and Bilbo came closer, she could see the zesty glint in his eye. I am here because I want the one ring, Bilbo bellowed in an envious tone. He slammed his fist against Pippi's chest with the force of 518 foxes. I friggin' hate you, Pippi Goldberg. Pippi looked back, even more miserable and still fingering the huge pencil. Bilbo, I hate you, she replied. They looked at each other with funny feelings, like two stagnant, successful snakes roller skating at a very friendly disco, which had rap music playing in the background, and two sociable uncles rampaging to the beat. Suddenly, Bilbo lunged forward and tried to punch Pippi in the face. Quickly, Pippi grabbed the huge pencil and brought it down on Bilbo's skull. Bilbo's pink right toe trembled and his scrawny nose wobbled. He looked puzzled, his body raw, like a clean, charming cup of tea. Then he let out an agonizing groan and collapsed to the ground. Moments later, Bilbo Baggins was dead. Pippi Goldberg went back inside and poured herself a nice glass of wine. The end. So, good job, everybody. Give yourself a pat on the back. It's a really nice story. Would you say that's a good ending or a bad ending?
Well, for Pippi, it's a good ending.
Yeah, for Pippi.
For Bilbo, it is bad.
Yeah, not so bad. Do you think you can kill somebody with that pencil? It would take a lot of force, right?
Yeah. Well, I was on the Bilbo's side.
You were on Bilbo's side? You wanted
Yeah.
Pippi to lose? Well,
Yeah.
Pippi's not that great of a person. So this is a really good paragraph here. They looked at each other with funny feelings, like two stagnant, successful snakes. So stagnant means not moving, just kind of sitting there. So stagnant and a successful snake. So it's a snake that makes a lot of money, maybe has some nice clothes on. And they were roller skating at a very friendly disco with rap music playing in the background, and two sociable uncles. So two uncles that really get along, rampaging to the beat. So not just dancing, but really breaking things. All right. A masterpiece. Good job, guys. So if you want to make your own masterpiece, go ahead and go to this website and fill in all the blanks, and you can make yourself a masterpiece. And if you do that, please send it to me, because I really like these type of stories. Okay. All right, so that's it for the huge pencil. This week I wanted to talk about Franz Kafka, as I said before, Kafkaesque. Okay, we're gonna watch a short video, and it's made by Ted Ed, so it's one of these. It's really well done, but the language is a little bit advanced, and so I went out and picked out all of the words that you might have trouble with. So if you know any of these, let me know, or I'll just ask you guys. So do you know what a protagonist is? Have you ever heard this word, protagonist? What's the opposite of a protagonist?
Antagonist.
Yeah, the antagonist, right? So who is the protagonist and who is the antagonist in Lord of the Rings?
Well, Bilbo is a protagonist.
He's the protagonist in The Hobbit, right?
Yeah.
And then in the Lord of the Rings, it's his nephew, I think, Frodo.
Yeah.
Okay. And who is the antagonist?
I always forget the guy's name.
Sauron.
Yeah.
The one eye that's looking down at it.
Yeah.
All right, good. Who is the protagonist in The Dark Knight Rises? Gabby? The Dark Knight Rises. You know that movie?
No.
Do you know The Dark Knight?
No.
Do you know Batman Begins?
No.
Do you know Superman?
Yeah.
Who's the protagonist in the Superman movie?
Superman.
Hey, all right. Who is the antagonist?
I can't remember.
Lex Luthor, probably. I don't know either. Bogdan, who is the protagonist in The Great Gatsby?
Jay Gatsby.
Jay Gatsby. Who is the antagonist? Is there an antagonist?
No.
Yeah, not really, right? So some movies don't have an antagonist. It's kind of hard to define. Good. Okay. Good phrase to have is out of nowhere. Out of nowhere just means suddenly, right? So if someone were to come up to you and tap you on the shoulder and be like, out of nowhere, not thinking about it, right? Bewildering, very good adjective to know. Bewildering means confusing, right? So sometimes when you wake up from a strange dream, it's a little bit bewildering. Am I in real life? What's going on? Why is the world so weird, right? Or sometimes if you're in algebra class and you didn't study for the test and you're looking down at the test, what is this? What's going on here? So bewildering. And then judicial proceedings. This is just stuff that goes on in a courtroom. Right? Anything that you see in court will be judicial proceedings. How about a scenario? What is this scenario? Any of you guys know?
Yeah, like a script.
Mm-hmm. It's like some setting, right? So if I give you a scenario, that means I tell you all about some place that a story took place, and I give you the scenario so that when I tell the story, it's a little more clear what's going on. Right? Vernacular, a vernacular. This is an interesting way of saying everyday language, and it's funny because vernacular is not in anybody's vernacular. Vernacular is kind of a sophisticated word to say everyday language. So it can contain slang, right? So in your vernacular, what are some words that you use in your vernacular? Some slang words maybe, like when you're texting somebody.
OMG.
OMG. Any others? LOL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AF.
IDK.
IDK. Okay. I don't know.
IDC.
I don't care. Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
And maybe T and thank you, like you. Oh,
Ah.
T. And I forgot.
Okay. So do you do these acronyms even when you're texting in Russian?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So TU, easy peasy. How about this one? What does that one mean?
Oh my god, I don't know.
Smiley face.
Yeah, it's a smiley face.
But without an actual face.
Yeah, where's the eyes? You guys need eyeballs
yes.
for your happy faces. All right. Good.
No, we use just brackets.
Mhm. You need you need eyeballs because what if you do this? Is this automatically a sad face?
Yeah.
You need the eyeballs over here, right? Because you can have a side face going this way. Right?
Oh, that would be kind of strange.
Okay. Well, all right. And you're also missing the nose. I think the nose is extremely important, right? You give them a nice nose. Okay. Sometimes when you hear the word labyrinth, labyrinth is a good way to say maze. Hi, Taya. Welcome. So a labyrinth is any kind of elaborate maze. And bureaucracy, you guys are too young to know too much about bureaucracy, but bureaucracy is something that you'll encounter when you're older. And it's this machine around you, society, things moving the way they move just because they move the way they move. It's there's nothing you could do about it. It's just like the government working in weird ways, bureaucracy. You might see it a little bit with any kind of leadership. So for example, politics, it's full of bureaucracy. Or when you go to the bank and you want to open an account and you say, please, can I give you my money? They say, well, we need the signature and we need this and we need that and we need the other thing. This is bureaucracy, all of the weird rules around everything that make things a little bit difficult to do. Okay? I'm going through this right now with Czech Republic because in the Czech Republic, bureaucracy is amazing, right? The amount of bureaucracy they have is so large that it's pretty impressive how bureaucratic Czech Republic is. Okay. Then we have mundane. Mundane is just kind of everyday, boring, not exciting, right? So do you guys feel like everyday life is pretty mundane? I do the same thing every day. I go to school. Was today mundane or did anything exciting happen?
Oh, the exact same day can be both mundane and exciting because it depends on how you feel and not on how the day actually was.
Okay, all right.
But it's for me. I don't know about others.
Okay. How was, what did you have for breakfast, Bogdan?
Today?
Yeah,
Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing.
nothing? Does
Yes.
that fill your soul with this mundane feeling? No food, I have to carry on. So
Can you stop
mundane.
remind me about food?
Okay, I'm sorry. If you're hungry, please take a break, eat something. Okay, absurd. Absurd is just silly, so extreme, terribly, terribly funny, right? And sometimes to a point where it's kind of disgustingly unreasonable, right? Well, that's just absurd, right? So sometimes you'll hear parents say to their kids, "You're just being absurd, right? You're being so crazy that it's unreasonably crazy." An aspect is just one way of looking at things or one way things can be perceived. So for example, any kind of philosophical idea has many, many aspects. And almost each one depends on the person looking at it. Maybe some artistic painting has many aspects of being interpreted. Is it a beautiful day? Is it a dreary day? Is it a mundane day, right? All right, and then we have an ordeal. An ordeal is just some random experience. And here it says difficult or painful. I would only say sometimes people use this in a way that it's not so painful. It's just an experience, but it is something that is not easy, right? It's an ordeal. Going outside right now in the Czech Republic is an ordeal because you have to put on a mask and you have to put on a lot of clothes because it's cold outside and everything's just so if something makes you feel like you're doing a lot of work to do it, it can be an ordeal. Coming to this class, what an ordeal, right? It's just a joke. You guys are supposed to say, no, I love this class. Okay. Disorienting. Good adjective. So to orient yourself means to direct yourself in the way that you want to go. Which way is north? Orient yourself towards the north, right? Disorienting is something that confuses you and makes you lose sight of your orientation, right? So disorienting. All of these words can be disorienting, right? Vernacular.
Not actually, because it's funny, but all those hard words they're usually the same in Russian. We have, for example, we have disorienting, we have this one, an aspect, bureaucracy, labyrinth. This all words are the same in Russian.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Yeah, that's something else that you guys can let me know because then I won't spend so much time explaining something you already know.
Well, I still don't understand what bureaucracy is in Russian.
Yeah, bureaucracy, it's one of those weird things that you don't recognize it until you see it. But it's a set of rules for the sake of having a set of rules. And that's it. There's usually there's no real meaning behind it, or there's no real meaning behind the rules. It's just someone made the rules and they are the boss. And so I have to follow these rules. Okay. And bureau, I believe, is a German word, right? Bureau is office, right? In German. So I always thought that this was a German-rooted word. We'll find out. Okay, anyway, swamped means you're totally piled down with all of these tasks. You have so much to do. Oh, I'm swamped. I have to do my homework, and I have to eat dinner, and I have to listen to this class, and I have to play Super Mario Brothers, and I just have way too much to do. Yeah. All right, and then a domain is an area of activity. Any kind of domain is, so you can think of, for example, I know a lot of laser physics, but only when it comes to a special type of laser called a fiber laser. So my domain would be fiber lasers, but there are also solid state lasers, or what they call diode pumped lasers, or all kinds of different lasers. And so my domain is very specific. Or my domain would be English, right? I could tell you a lot about lots of different grammar. Your domain would be Russian or Ukrainian in the case of Kafkaesque. And let's see. So you can create a domain. It just depends on what you like and what you learn, right? So it could incorporate your hobbies, for example. So if you have any hobbies, I collect Pokemon cards. So Pokemon is my domain. I don't really, but if I did, that kind of thing. Okay, so to delegate means to give responsibility to. Okay, so if I have a lot of tasks, if I have a lot of things that I need to do, I could say, Paulina, can you do this task for me? Take this pen and send it off. And then Stan, can you take this pen and take it over there? And so I'm delegating. Saying, you do this, you do this, you do this. To delegate. Okay, to deem others means to regard others or consider others. And you can use any adjective after this. To deem others worthy, to deem others unworthy, to deem others kind, to deem others disrespectful, right? So that means I think of those people as this and that, right? I'm sure you guys have this word, right? Irony, irony? No? Yeah.
Yeah, we have the same in Russian. So I think.
Irony. Okay. Kind of tough to really nail down, but irony is a situation that is opposite of what you would expect. Kind of a weird thing. So emblematic. So an emblem is a symbol. You can look on money, for example, and money has lots of symbols on it, or emblems of the state. And coins especially have emblems of the state. To be emblematic means to be symbolic or to kind of remind you of something, right? So, for example, whenever I see a flag, I think of the country that it's from. A flag is emblematic of its country. Yeah, okay. To employ means to put to work, to put to use, right? To employ, that's where we get the word employee. Employee is someone who works at a company. So to employ something means to put that person to work, right? Arbitrary, have you guys heard this word before? Arbitrary?
Yeah.
Yeah? So arbitrary is just whichever one, I don't care, right? By chance. To be caught up in is a nice phrasal verb and it's non-separable. It means to be captured or unable to escape, right? So to be caught up in your plans or to be caught up in your homework or to be caught up on, in various activities means you cannot break free from them. You cannot go do something else, right? It also has another meaning. The separable version has another meaning. It means to be current on, right? So I'm caught up on this series that I've been watching. I'm caught up on this book, right? I've been reading this book and I'm caught up to the right page. Good. So to be caught up in a book or to catch up. It's two different meanings. To fast means to not eat. Sorry, Bogdan, I'm reminding you of food again. You probably feel like you're fasting right now, right? Haven't had dinner yet. Thinking about all this food, oh my gosh. So we're gonna meet a character that fasts to amaze people. Anonymity means the quality of being unknown or unacknowledged. Anonymity, you'll usually see stories or poems written by anonymous. So it means that nobody knows who that is. Vague is not clear or distinct. I have a vague idea of what 2 + 2 is, but I'm not very good at math. Maybe it's 5. Somewhere in there, it's one of those numbers, right? I have a vague idea. Momentum is a good good physics word. So something with momentum will continue to move because it has the strength and power to move already, right? So a boulder rolling down the hill has momentum, but if I throw this little pen at you, it doesn't have very much momentum, right? It just bounces off, and it can't take you with it, right? So momentum is anything that has a lot of power that can pull you towards something, and we'll think of it in a metaphorical sense, in a thinking sense, right? So some idea, society has momentum, right? Society can pick you up and carry you in a direction that maybe you don't want to go, right? You have to go to school because society has momentum to grab you and put you into school. To perpetuate means to keep going, keep going. And then convoluted, this is a really good word. Convoluted means two things that just kind of come, or many things, but two things that come together that are so involved with one another that you can't really tell them apart anymore, right? So for example, when you mix flour and water and yeast and salt, and you mix all of this stuff up into a dough, all of this stuff becomes convoluted. You can't pick the flour back out. You can't pick the water back out. It is convoluted into a dough, right? Okay. Or sauce or anything that you cook. Any ideas, sometimes ideas become convoluted. You all talk to each other and you don't really remember where an idea originated because so many people have added to the idea. It becomes convoluted. All right, and then fine tune. To fine tune means to tune means to make adjustments to, and to fine tune means to make little adjustments to. It usually means to make it just perfect, right? To fine tune. So I'm trying to fine tune your English. You guys are really good with English, but I'm trying to make it just a little bit better. Trying to make it a little bit perfect. Right? Okay, so those are the words that you'll hear during this little video, and hopefully that'll make things a little more clear. But here, before we watch or a couple of questions just to ask you about, see if you understand these words. Okay, so what are some words in the American English vernacular that you find funny or weird or strange? Any ideas? I remember when I was learning Danish, my favorite word in Danish was tvivel, which means doubt. Think about that. But it's a very strange word and it's very hard to pronounce. So I really like these words that are hard to pronounce. And then in Czech, there's this word řízek. And it's this rolling R with the j on top of it. Řízek. And it's just a schnitzel, a piece of meat that's pounded down. But I like it because I always want to put a j here as well. Řízek, but yeah, řízek, but that's wrong. You're not supposed to do that. Řízek. And it took me a long time to say that properly. So are there any words that you find kind of funny or fun to say in English?
Walkie-talkie.
Walkie-talkie, all right, good, that's a great one. Very fun definition or invention there. Oops, sorry. Walkie-talkie.
I just wonder what did the person who invented this word think. Just you walk and talk, so it must be walkie-talkie.
Exactly. Walkie-talkie. Good. All right, Gabi, do you have any favorite words?
I don't know. I can't remember now.
Okay, you can't remember. Can you say there's a squirrel rattling around in my refrigerator? Squirrel rattling around in my refrigerator. Do you think you could say that? This phrase gives Danish and Swedish people a horrible time, and also Germans. Germans have a hard time with this. There's a squirrel rattling around in my refrigerator. You want to try? No?
Yeah. The word Q as well. It's ridiculous.
The word which? Q?
Q,
yeah. Huehue. Q. Yeah, that's a good one. Lera, do you have any favorite word? Sorry?
Ridiculous itself is a funny word.
Okay, good. Ridiculous.
I don't know why, but I just love it.
I can remember it's fuddy-duddy, like this.
Okay, fuddy-duddy, yeah.
Yes, it's really.
Fuddy-duddy. What does it mean? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's a man who I can't.
Can you tell us in Russian what it is?
Конечно.
Конечно?
Конечно. Ну,
Комишню?
это этот ворчун. Блин, Стас, пожалуйста, скажи, как ворчун на английском? Ну, это не фади-дади, как объяснить?
I don't know how to explain it as well. Well,
Блин,
It's
сейчас не могу.
it's someone who doesn't want to participate in fun things, right?
Yep. Yep.
A fuddy-duddy. Don't be such a fuddy-duddy. Come on,
Yeah.
let's jump off of this cliff. Or don't be such a fuddy-duddy. Let's jump in front of this car. Yeah. All right. Good.
I also heard Benedict Cumberbatch say a funny word, but I don't really remember it. It was something like flibbity gibbet, or do you know this one?
No,
No?
no, no. Yeah, I would have to maybe hear it myself. All right.
Oh,
Paulina,
it's Fliberty gibbet. Fliberty gibbet.
Liberty Gibbet. Okay, that's not a
Yeah.
normal one. That's just a made up garbage word, I think.
Here it is.
Paulina, do you have any favorite words?
I don't have favorite word, but I think that funny doodle.
Doodle? Like that? To draw, to doodle? Is that the word you're thinking of?
mm,
Yankee Doodle?
Probably.
Lera, do you have any favorite words?
I don't know. I thought about Q, but it's wrong.
Okay. Yeah, Q is a weird one. It's got a weird spelling. Paulina, if you can remember, you can always throw it up in the chat window. And take a look at it. And then Bogdan, do you have any favorite words? Bogdan, are you still here? I guess he
Oh, he probably has connection problems again.
went to go eat. Okay, Taya, do you have any favorite words?
No, I don't think so.
No?
No.
Do you have a hard time saying squirrel or refrigerator? Can you say squirrel or refrigerator, or are those words difficult? Squirrel.
Squirrel?
Yeah. You don't have any problem with it?
No.
Okay. Some people have a hard time saying squirrel. How about red lorry, yellow lorry?
Oh yeah, that
Red
one.
lorry, yellow lorry. So this is red truck, yellow truck. Red lorry, yellow lorry. And if you say it very fast, it gets very difficult to say. Okay.
After the fifth lap, it becomes hard to say.
Yeah. Okay. Do you guys ever feel swamped with your tasks? Like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do.
Yeah,
All the time?
yeah, every day.
Every day? Gabby, do you also feel swamped every day?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Well, summer is coming. Don't worry. Have any of you fasted for anything?
Yeah.
Yeah? So you just decided, I'm not going to eat for 3 days?
Yeah, when I was, oh my God, I don't even remember, but I only know that I saw someone doing this in the movie, and I decided when the parents did something bad to me, I decided to
So you were
show them,
going,
yeah,
you were going on a hunger strike. Hunger
Yeah.
strike. Yeah, okay. So whenever your parents punished you, you said, okay, fine, I'm not eating.
yeah.
How long could you go without eating?
Well, as long as well, until it became real painful.
Okay, so 3 days, 4 days, something like that, or just like 1 day?
One day. It's
One
enough.
day. Okay. All right. That's a lot more than I could do. I think the longest I've gone without food is maybe 3 hours.
Me too.
Yeah. Food's good, right? Okay. So we're gonna watch this video now. Let me know if you have any trouble. Liberty Gibbet. Yeah. Benson Cumberbatch. He's a weird guy. Okay. Where's the video? Here's the video. Okay, so let's listen in. You guys hear it?
Someone must have been telling lies about Joseph K. He knew he had done nothing wrong, but one morning, he was arrested. Thus begins The Trial, one of author Franz Kafka's most well-known novels. K, the protagonist, is arrested out of nowhere and made to go through a bewildering process where neither the cause of his arrest nor the nature of the judicial proceedings are made clear to him. This sort of scenario is considered so characteristic of Kafka's work that scholars came up with a new word for it. Kafkaesque has entered the vernacular to describe unnecessarily complicated and frustrating experiences, like being forced to navigate labyrinths of bureaucracy. But does standing in a long line to fill out confusing paperwork really capture the richness of Kafka's vision? Beyond the word's casual use, what makes something Kafkaesque? Franz Kafka's stories do indeed deal with many mundane and absurd aspects of modern bureaucracy, drawn in part from his experience of working as an insurance clerk in early 20th century Prague. Many of his protagonists are office workers compelled to struggle through a web of obstacles in order to achieve their goals. And often the whole ordeal turns out to be so disorienting and illogical that success becomes pointless in the first place. For example, in the short story Poseidon, the ancient Greek god is an executive so swamped with paperwork that he's never had time to explore his underwater domain. The joke here is that not even a god can handle the amount of paperwork demanded by the modern workplace. But the reason why is telling. He's unwilling to delegate any of the work because he deems everyone else unworthy of the task. Kafka's Poseidon is a prisoner of his own ego. This simple story contains all of the elements that make for a truly Kafkaesque scenario. It's not the absurdity of bureaucracy alone, but the irony of the character's circular reasoning in reaction to it that is emblematic of Kafka's writing. His tragicomic stories act as a form of mythology for the modern industrial age, employing dream logic to explore the relationships between systems of arbitrary power and the individuals caught up in them. Take, for example, Kafka's most famous story, Metamorphosis. When Gregor Samsa awakens one morning to find himself transformed into a giant insect, his greatest worry is that he gets to work on time. Of course, this proves impossible. It was not only the authoritarian realm of the workplace that inspired Kafka. Some of his protagonist's struggles come from within. The short story A Hunger Artist describes a circus performer whose act consists of extended fasts. He's upset that the circus master limits these to 40 days, believing this prevents him from achieving greatness in his art. But when his act loses popularity, he is left free to starve himself to death. The twist comes when he lays dying in anonymity, regretfully admitting that his art has always been a fraud. He fasted not through strength of will, but simply because he never found a food he liked. Even in the trial, which seems to focus directly on bureaucracy, the vague laws and bewildering procedures point to something far more sinister. The terrible momentum of the legal system proves unstoppable even by supposedly powerful officials. This is a system that doesn't serve justice, but whose sole function is to perpetuate itself, what political theorist Hannah Arendt, writing years after Kafka's death, would call tyranny without a tyrant. Yet accompanying the bleakness of Kafka's stories, there's a great deal of humor, rooted in the nonsensical logic of the situations described. So on the one hand, it's easy to recognize the Kafkaesque in today's world. We rely on increasingly convoluted systems of administration that have real consequences on every aspect of our lives. And we find our every word judged by people we can't see according to rules we don't know. On the other hand, by fine-tuning our attention to the absurd, Kafka also reflects our shortcomings back at ourselves. In doing so, he reminds us that the world we live in is one we create and have the power to change for the better.
Nice little message, right? So even though most of his stories have what we would probably call terrible endings, bad endings, the idea is that we use these stories to kind of take a look at the world around us and see, you know, are there things that we can change? Are there things that we can do to not really prevent all of this craziness, but to help us through life and make life bearable and happy, right? Okay, so let's see what you guys remember from this fun little story. Where is it that Kafka got some of his inspiration for his stories? And who are the protagonists in many of his stories?
So well, protagonists are usually clerks.
Yeah, clerks and office workers, right? And so he got his inspiration from his job.
Oh yeah.
What was his job at the time? Or where was he working at the time?
Something connected with insurance.
Mhm. So he was some office worker at an insurance company. What city was it in?
Prague.
In Prague, great. They love bureaucracy here. They're so excited about it. So I could see very clearly why he was he was inspired by such things. Let me just fix this really quick. All right. So in his short story Poseidon, why doesn't the Greek god delegate his responsibilities? People come up to him and say, "Here, let me do this for you," and he does this because he doesn't think anybody can do it right, right? So if I give you this, sorry?
He was selfish. And
I wouldn't call it selfish, but I would call it very egotistic, right? He thinks that he is the only person who's capable of doing this, right? So I'm way up here and everybody in my kingdom is way down here. They're not smart enough to do this, or they're not good enough to do this, right? So he's a little bit egotistic, that's true. Okay, but he deems everybody else unworthy, right? That's what they say in the thing. Do you know anybody like this? Do you think does your dad sometimes operate like this, or your mom operate like this sometimes?
no.
Or any of your, I guess your teachers, you wouldn't know if your teachers operate like this. Okay.
Yeah.
I know lots of people like this. I get like this sometimes. When I'm a project manager, I don't like people messing up things, because when they mess things up, you have to do extra work to fix their mess ups. So sometimes I get like this, but it's tough. Okay. Question number 3. Kafka's writing seems to always contain two things. One of them is absurdity of bureaucracy, but what is the other important element? So there's the craziness of the world around the protagonist. It shows the gears inside the head.
Yeah, and is about something that was in the end that we're responsible for the future we make. No?
Not quite that part. It's the part where you see the man in the little mouse wheel, right? So it's not just the
Truly
story
Kafkaesque
itself.
scenario. It's not the absurdity of bureaucracy alone, but the irony of the character's circular reasoning in reaction to it that is emblematic of Kafka's writing.
Okay, so it's not just the craziness of the world around the person, but the person acting crazy in response to it. It's like, well, if you're going to be crazy, I'm going to be crazy too. Right? So the reaction of the person to the crazy scenario. Do you guys know anybody like this in real life? For example, maybe a classmate, if some craziness happens around them, they just get a little more crazy themselves.
Yeah, everybody.
Everybody, all right. This is all of Belgorod, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. So someone starts doing something crazy, I'm gonna get crazier. And then the next person gets crazier, and then it just, the entire city. Okay, good. In the story Metamorphosis, what is the main character Gregor Samsa transformed into? And what is his biggest worry?
Giant insect, cockroach.
Yeah, he's a giant insect. And even though he's changed into a giant insect, what is his biggest worry?
Probably anyone else wants to answer.
No, his biggest worry was getting to work on time. Can you imagine?
Oh yeah, paperwork. They people brought him the papers and he was like, oh, that's me.
Yeah. But in this story, so this is the story that Kurt Vonnegut Jr. was talking about. The man wakes up as an insect and his life just gets worse after that. Worse and worse and worse after that. But let's see if we can listen here. Okay, so here's the guy turning into
His
a dog.
greatest worry is that he gets to work on time.
All right. So his greatest worry is, oh my gosh, can I catch the bus now that I'm a cockroach? Is this possible to catch the bus on time and to make sure that I get to work on time? So this is pretty absurd, right? It's really, really crazy that this would be your biggest worry if you were changed into an insect. All right, in the story Hunger Artist, but you're right, someone did bring him some paperwork, I think.
Of course,
This guy right here brings him some paperwork. He can't fill it out because he doesn't have hands anymore. Okay, in the story The Hunger Artist, what was the Hunger Artist's actual reason for fasting for so long?
Well, he thought that it's a specific art that needs to be recognized. That needs to be people just should well, I don't even know what he was thinking because this man is just mad. Oh,
But at the very end of the story,
that's sort of art for him. That's
yeah.
why.
But at the end of the story, he says to somebody, "Well, I wasn't fasting because I'm an artist. I'm fasting."
Oh yeah,
because
he hasn't found the food he liked.
Yeah, he couldn't find any food that he liked. Can you imagine?
Even silly.
That's a pretty easy way to become a hunger artist, though, right? In the story The Trial, Kafka brilliantly illustrates the bureaucracy of society as something that has a sole purpose of perpetuating itself. It is described as tyranny without a tyrant. Do you feel like society is like this? Like rules are just rules that people follow? What's a rule that you really hate, that you think is stupid?
Well, uniform at school.
Yes, definitely yes.
Uniforms at school, stupid rule, right? So this is bureaucracy, okay? Someone somewhere decided if the students are wearing uniforms, they will perform better because they won't have to worry about their clothes, right? And you think this is a dumb rule. All right, Lera, do you hate uniforms as well? How do you feel about the uniforms? Do you care, or do you think it's a dumb rule?
No, I think the students' education didn't depend on clothes that they wore.
Okay, so you don't like the rule as well?
No.
Okay, all right. Taya, how do you feel about uniforms?
What?
How do you feel about uniforms at school? Do you
I
like that
don't
rule?
like it.
You don't like that rule? Okay. Paulina, how do you feel about uniforms at school?
I too don't like it.
Okay, so nobody likes this rule. Everybody thinks it's a stupid rule, right?
Yeah, like it bothers us so much every day.
Yeah. All right. Well, someday you will be free of this rule, and I guarantee you, about 2 or 3 years after, you won't even think about it. But right
Well,
now,
it really affects our performance, but in a negative way.
yeah, right. Right now, you really worry about it, so it's
Yeah.
it's frustrating. Okay.
Yes,
Any
so do you have uniforms at schools in USA?
some schools are uniform schools, some schools are not. Public schools are not uniform schools. All uniform schools are private schools. So for example, if you went to a Catholic high school, you would wear a uniform. I went to a couple of different, not schools, but like programs that had uniforms for the program. And at first it bothered me, but after a while I didn't really care. And then I was given the freedom to wear whatever I wanted after anyway. So yeah, I don't know how I would have reacted. I think in high school it would have bothered me about as much as it bothers you guys. But, all right, so yeah, these last two questions, we kind of went over them already, right? Kafka wants you to look at the world around you and see, like, try to keep this absurdity and these awful things out of your mind. Try to focus on what's important, and maybe a way to get around all of these rules, right? So for example, if I think I followed Kafka's teachings pretty well because I'm teaching English right now. If I didn't follow Kafka, what Kafka thought about the world, I would still be an engineer somewhere. And I might have to go back to engineering. I'm actually looking at going back to engineering, but I'll keep teaching as long as I can. And as soon as this pandemic craziness is over, then I'll get back to teaching again after that. So always look to do what you want to do in life, right? Life's too short. It's don't fall in line with society just because society says so. And here's a little thing you could read about Franz Kafka. This is interesting because he burnt a lot of his work. He threw a lot of his work into a fire. And so a lot of what he did is not available to read, which is a shame, but such is life. So,
Familiar story.
Sorry?
That's familiar story.
What's that?
Many great writers do that. They just throw their works at chimney.
Okay. Yeah, that's yeah. Some artists don't like what they do, and they end up destroying the work. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about Kafkaesque and what it means to be Kafkaesque?
No.
Okay. Hopefully you guys retain some of those words and some of those phrases. They're really good. How do you guys feel about a lesson on physics?
Oh, yeah, I love physics.
Okay. Gabby, no way. Yahweh?
I don't know because I don't like physics.
You don't like physics?
Yeah,
Okay.
I really don't know why, but I don't like it.
That's fine.
I
That's
can't
fine.
understand it.
That's fine. It's not going to be crazy physics. It's just going to be English words around physics.
Okay.
I'm going to see if I can get this little demonstration running. But down here, I have a battery on a magnet, and I have this beautiful piece of artwork. It's a couple of paper clips and a little wire leading on it, right? And if I put it on here, let's see if I can get it to work. Sometimes I can get it to work. It'll start rotating. Wowee, right? Oh my God. So I'm not blowing on it. I'm not doing anything. It's just moving on its own, okay? And I came across this really interesting lesson where we can learn how to build one and learn what's going on there, okay? Does that sound kind of fun?
Yeah.
Okay, so not physics, like I'm just gonna draw a bunch of
Oh.
formulas or anything like that.
That wouldn't be bad as well because I like my mind getting blown.
Okay, all right. So I'll show you how this is called a mono, I forget what type, it's a type of motor, and I'll show you how it works. All right, Taya, Polina, are you okay with that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah?
it's okay.
Okay, cool. Paulina?
Yes, okay.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll write up a little worksheet, and I found the perfect video. It's a Canadian, but he's not from Canada, so he has a little bit of an accent. So you'll get some English with a funny accent. Okay. Okay. So, and it's still spinning, by the way. It's gonna go on forever. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. But
Yeah, I also remember you giving us a lesson on how the eye works in Prague.
yeah. That one's
Yeah,
kind
that
of
was
fun.
great. That was my favorite lesson.
Yeah, it's good. Unfortunately, I can't do that one again because you've already had it.
Yeah.
But it's a really fun lesson. I do have one. Did I tell you about the color orange, or just how the eyeball works?
Well, since we had long lessons back then, I think you did tell us about. Yeah, you told us about colors,
Okay.
the human eye, and those.
Okay, but did I have to remember if I put in anything specific about the color orange, because there's some.
Orange, no.
Okay, there's something really funny about the color orange. So maybe after I do this funny lesson, I'll tell you guys about the color orange, because it's really, really weird color.
Looking forward.
Okay, all right. Any questions?
Yeah,
No.
you probably you know something about IT. We know something. We could do a lesson on it as well, because I recently found it. Well, YouTube recommended me a strange video that
Okay.
was on IT. Just how the computer sums up the numbers and how it recollects them, and
So like more
yeah,
like regular computer science, not
yeah.
not IT is to me IT.
Well, programming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
programming and how a computer works and all of that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can.
that's why I found it strange, because I do programming, but not the computer architecture and these kind of things.
Okay.
But I found that video interesting, and probably every person could understand that. So I probably should send you this video.
Yeah. Send me it, and if I can make a lesson out of it, I will. Or find other things that are similar. Okay. Any other lesson ideas? Music, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
All right. So we'll do physics, and then we'll do music, and then we'll do whatever computer stuff. All right. Okay. So yeah, have a good week, guys, and I'll see you all next week. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.